A very warm welcome to Africa. Good morning on a Friday chilly morning. My name is Aina Raizakleo alongside Diana Master, and we are your presenters this morning, kickstarting your morning with tons of energy and information. How are you doing, my love?
I'm doing well. I like that you said a very warm welcome. We really could use some warmth, so that's very fitting. And I'm excuse me, I'm glad that you brought up the fact that it's Friday. We've made it to the end of the week.
Finally.
But before we go celebrate the weekend, let's actually get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. Tanzanian church leaders seized for detaining sick people. More than 100 patients flee Cape Town drug rehab center, and private custodians protect nearly half of Africa's rhinos. We're also going to be crossing over to Zambia, and we speak to Mr. Mike Sichula as he updates us on all the latest news making headlines that side. Stick around, we'll be back with our top stories right after this break.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
In our top news this morning, Tanzanian church leaders seized for detaining sick people. Tanzanian authorities have arrested 2 church leaders for allegedly detaining dozens of sick people while promising to heal them through prayer and traditional herbs. The more than 100 people were being kept in the so-called traditional ward built around the church in Nyamiza village, Misingwi district in northwestern region of Mwanza, with no medical treatment or food being provided. Some had been there for up to a month, and they were required to find food for themselves until they fully recovered. They were found after locals alerted the police that some people were dying after leaving hospitals, including a woman who had joined the church soon after giving birth to twins. At the end of last week, the police took the sick people back to hospitals for treatment. They are now investigating possible deaths and whether there are bodies buried nearby.
Now getting into our next story, more than 100 patients flee Cape Town Drug Rehab Center. Residents of Mandela Park in Kailita are on high alert following the daring escape of about 100 recovering drug addicts from the Iliso Lake Rehabilitation Center on Saturday, the 10th of June. According to the center's co-owner Abdullah Gobskal, a recent change of management might have been the cause for the breakout, during which the patients overpowered security guards. At the time of the breakout, it is believed that more than 300 patients from the area were being treated at the facility, which was founded by Shahid Mlamli Silwana last year. The founder passed away on the 4th of June, and it is believed that the escape followed an uproar when it was announced last Friday that his wife, Siamtanda Fatima Diko, would be taking over the operations. According to Cape Town ETC, it is alleged that Diko has a history of abusing and mistreating some of the patients at the facility. These claims, however, have not been confirmed.
In our next story, private custodian protected nearly half of Africa's rhinos. Private rhino owners now conserve at least half of the continent's remaining rhinos, while a growing proportion are protected on communal lands, as well as a study that has found this information. The study, undertaken by Frontiers in Ecology and the Environmental, examines the contribution of private and communal land to rhino conservation, as well as the financial and policy implications of these arrangements. The study says African rhino numbers are declining at unsustainable rates in core state-run parks, which is why more than half of the continent's remaining rhinos are now on private land. According to the study, 75% of Namibia's white rhinos are found on private land, while 27 of its black rhinos are on private land and 7% are in communal conservancies.
Swinging back to South Africa approves controversial universal health bill. South Africa's National Assembly has passed a controversial bill to introduce universal health coverage in the country. South Africa's Health Minister Joe Fahla hailed the approval of the bill as a historic step for the legislation that had been in the pipeline for 12 years. The opposition fears that the already overburdened public health system will collapse if the new legislation comes into force. Leading opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, denounced the move, saying that 9 million of the 60 million South Africans with medical insurance would have to be covered by an already overburdened public health system. In Africa's leading industrial power, public hospitals are often overcrowded and under-resourced or understaffed. The most privileged often turn to the private sector.
In South Africa, a clinic hopes to save the future of penguins threatened by extinction. A dedicated rehabilitation center is on a mission to bring African penguins back from the brink of extinction. We are trying to reserve some of the human damage caused to these birds over the years, says Caitlin van der Merwe, a seabird ranger at the Southern African Foundation of Conservation of Coastal Birds. Threatened by climate change and human activity, the endangered species, which waddles awkwardly on land but turns into a fast-swimming torpedo in the water, has suffered a drastic decline in number. Around 50,000 mating pairs penguins are monogamous, inhabited the shorelines of South Africa and Namibia 3 decades ago.
That brings us to the end of our top stories. Stick around, we'll be back with news from Zambia after this break.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Now swinging over to Zambia to speak to Mr. Mike Sichula. He updates us on a few stories. Good morning, Mr. Sichula.
Good morning, and Africa, good morning.
All right, so let's get into it. President Hakainde Hichilema is this week scheduled to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Please tell us about this.
Yes, this is part of the African Peace Initiative, where 6 heads of states are on an official visit to the Russian Federation and Ukraine, where they will meet to encourage dialogue and peaceful resolution of the conflict between the two nations. As we all know that Russia has invaded Ukraine. So African leaders, including President Hakainde Hichilema, Senegal, from South Africa, meeting this week with the two leaders with the aim of seeing to it that African leaders also participate to bring world peace. So according to President Hichilema, on his Facebook page, he posted that instability anywhere is instability everywhere. So yesterday he met the president of Poland, and he did thank the president of Poland for his contributions to ensure that Zambians who were trapped in Ukraine were given safe passage in Warsaw, then back to Zambia. So this is something that most Africans will certainly pay attention to see what will come out from the Ukrainian president and Russia having meeting with African leaders seeking to find peace and stability in the two nations.
All right, Master Sichula, on a lighter note, very interesting news. Lusaka has recorded another case of a married woman attempting to get married to another man. Please tell us what's going on with the love affairs in Zambia.
This is yet another interesting story, like you put it, because not long ago, Africa Good Morning did report a similar case where a Lusaka woman was prevented from marrying another man, getting married to another man while she was married. So in this case, uh, there was drama at the Lusaka Civic Center when a married woman attempted to get married to another man. So the issue is that Pinet Nkoma was found clothed in a white wedding dress and sitting next to her husband by the mother, who said that who told the gathering when the official was about to declare the marriage to be official. But she stormed in and told the officers that her daughter was actually married with a 4-year-old child. So she was surprised that uh, her daughter had gone ahead to get married when she was married to someone else. She got this information from neighbors and she dashed to the Lusaka Civic Center to ensure that the marriage does not proceed. So the marriage was cancelled, and also the man who was legally married to this woman was contacted, and he did confirm that the wife who was about to get married was actually his wife, and she just told him that she was the party, and he was surprised to hear news that she was actually getting married to someone else. So according to the Lusaka City Council marriage registrar, he said that the marriage was null and void, and he encouraged couples who are going through problems of such nature to first dissolve their marriage before moving on.
Wow, what a way to start a Friday. All right, now moving on, police in Lusaka have detained former Zambia's ambassador to Ethiopia, Emmanuel Mwamba. What happened? Please tell us.
Okay, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba, he's a former ambassador to Ethiopia. He also represented Zambia as a representative to the African Union, and he was also High Commissioner of Zambia in South Africa. So since the Patriotic Front lost power, he's been so critical of the current administration, and he's also vying to be the president of the opposition Patriotic Front. So police have not told the nation what charges Mr. Mwamba they are keeping him for, but sources close to his within political parties are linking his arrest to him being critical of how the new administration under the leadership of President Hichilema is handling national affairs. So it's almost 3 days. Police have not said why he's been detained, and he's been moved from one police station to another, and a number of his supporters have been asking police to clearly state why they are holding him, and if the matter is bondable, then he must be given bond. But police have remained mute on this matter, and it is expected that he may probably be released next week if nothing happens by the end of business today.
All right, Master Sichula, finally in sports, the Chipolopolo boys will face the Ivory Coast in a must-win match at the Levi Manawasa Stadium. Tell us about this.
This is a big match for the Chipolopolo boys under coach Avram Grant, because since winning the 2012 African Champions, Zambia has gone to miss 3 African Cup of Nations, and this has not gone down well with members of the football community. There you are, you can see the team yesterday unveiled a new Copa replica. You can see Patson Daka, Fashion Sakana. So this match played on Saturday is one of the biggest matches for this team, because they just need 1 point to qualify to the Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted in Ivory Coast. So a number of soccer fans have bought tickets, and some of the outlets that have been stocking these tickets have actually run out of them. It is expected that this match is going to be highly attended, and Coach Avram Grant is not leaving anything to chance. He has summoned the best players that Zambia has in Europe and South Africa, and locally to ensure that he completes the job just on home soil and begin to look at how he can qualify the team to the World Cup.
Well, we certainly do wish the Chipolo Polo boys all the best, and we are hoping that they actually win. Thank you so much, Mr. Sishila, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in Zambia.
Thank you very much. Do have a blessed week. Thank you.
Now it's time for us to take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles. Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
In our economic news this morning, Zimbabwe breaks a record with its tobacco sales. Zimbabwe has produced a record amount of tobacco this year with 263,000 tons sold so far for this season. The Agriculture Ministry said that 58% of the production comes from small-scale farmers, many of whom were settled on land controversially seized more than 2 decades ago from white farmers under a policy to address colonial-era land grabs. For the government, this is a vindication of the controversial land seizure. Zimbabwe is Africa's largest producer of tobacco and exports to China, the Middle East, and Europe.
Now, Nigeria's central bank moves to unify exchange rates. Nigeria's central bank moved to liberalize foreign exchange trading on Wednesday, capping a dramatic day that saw the official Naira rate devalue by more than a third. In a statement issued after the end of the trading day in New York, the central bank said all FX trading would now take place at what is known as its investors and exporters window and reintroduced the willing buyer, willing seller model. The operational rate for all government-related FX transactions will be the weighted average of the preceding day's executed trades, while order-based two-way quotes cleared by a central counterparty will be reintroduced.
Let's have a look at our economic indicators and thereafter the sports package with Ari Hohad.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. It's a grass season that started. It's leading up to Wimbledon, and it's the Stuttgart Open taking place at the moment on the men's side on the ATP. And results from the round of 16 is that Francis Tiafoe of the USA, he's number 3 seed. He's through to the next round. He beat Yuri Lehecki of Chechnya by 7-6 and 6-4. Also number 6 seed, it's Lorenzo Musetti. He's from Italy. He's more known to be a clay court player, but he's also playing good on grass, and he's also through in the round of 16. Hubert Hukratz, he's number 4 seed. He's from Poland. He had a very tough game in the round of 16. He beat Yasuki Watsunuki of Japan, and the score there was 4-6 and then 7-6 and 7-6 in the third. The number 1 seed in the tournament is Stefanos Tsitsipas of Greece, and number 2 seed is Taylor Fritz. They're also in the round of 16 and yet to play their games, and that's Stefanos Tsitsipas did well in the French Open quite recently, and he's trying to get momentum leading into Wimbledon later this year. And continuing with cricket news, and it's the much anticipated Ashes series that's about to start. 5 test matches they will play. It is Australia that's playing against England. All 5 tests, it's going to be played in England this English summer. And team news from England is that they've decided to pick Stuart Broad as their seam bowler. They've announced the 11 that will play in the first test at Edgbaston. That's starting on Friday. And that was a big call for the England selectors because they had to leave out Mark Wood, a very fast, fiery bowler, and they went for the experience of Stuart Broad. Stuart Broad, 36-year-old, and it's also some of the other bowlers that is quite old in the bowling attack of England. It is Jimmy Anderson, that's 40 years old. He's going to be the other seamer together with Ollie Robinson, and then also Moeen Ali. He's the spinner in the team. He's 36 years old, just came back from retirement. Team news from Australia is that they're still waiting on the fitness of Josh Hazlewood. He's the seamer. He didn't play in the Test Match Championship final against India a week ago, and it was Scotty Boland that did well against India. So he will be the backup if Josh Hazlewood not fit to play in the first test. And to close off international sports news, it is golf news. It is the US Open, one of the 4 majors of the year on the men's calendar that started in Los Angeles in the USA. And it is all the best players in the world playing in this tournament. And news from the tournament is that Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka, they paired together. They're playing with Hideki Matsuyama in the first 2 rounds. It is Brooks Koepka that won the PGA just quite recently. And it is also Brooks Koepka that is in the news because he is one of the players that play at the Live Golf Initiative. Lots of changes in World Golf. We'll see if Live Golf, all the players will be included again in the PGA and the DP World Tour. But for this tournament, the US Open, it is quite a few of the Live Golf Breakaway League players that play in the US Open. It's Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, like I mentioned, then also Sergio Garcia that also qualified, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Patrick Reed, and also Cameron Smith of Australia. Southern African interest, there's 4 players from South Africa that will be playing in the US Open. It is Dion Germeses. He is world number 228, so he qualified in one of the qualifying tournaments to play. And then also Wilco Nienaber and Ulrich Potgieter. He is one of 18 amateurs playing in the tournament. And also Tristan Lawrence. He is the 4th player from South Africa. The world number 1, 2, and 3 also in the tournament, of course, it is Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, and Rory McIlroy. They're all playing in the tournament. So in the final round, the 4th round of the US Open in Los Angeles will be played on Sunday. That's our international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again international sports tomorrow. Goodbye.
And that brings us to the end of our show. But before we sign off and say goodbye, let's take a look at the highlights. Tanzanian church leaders seized for detaining sick people. More than 100 patients flee Cape Town drug rehab center. Private custodians protect nearly half of Africa's rhinos. Zimbabwe breaks a record with its tobacco sales.
Those have been our stories. We thank you very much for watching Africa Good Morning on this Friday edition. Now we do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can post them on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Please be reminded that the Africa Good Morning screens on TSTV channel 285 as well as GoTV channel 25. On that note, it's all our love, all our light. Happy Friday.